Morning, brethren. Yesterday we were thinking of Jesus' words in Mark chapter 4 and verse 24. Consider carefully what you hear. Jesus went on, and immediately after that he said this: with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. With the measure you use, it will be measured to you. What was our Lord meaning in these words? Well, imagine taking a ruler, and having to measure a particular piece of wood, let's say. And the ruler is divided up into centimetres or inches. And you're measuring that piece of wood to see whether or not it is the size that it's meant to be. So you have a standard, and according to that standard, you are measuring the piece of wood. What our Lord is saying is that the standard that you use to measure other people, or to judge other people, or to assess other people, in other words, how you think of other people according to how they behave, how they speak, how they conduct themselves, and so on, that standard that you're applying to them, that will be applied to you. So, for example, if you judge people with regards to their speech, and there are certain standards that you have for them, those standards equally apply to you. So, for example, if someone tells lies and you judge them and say that's terrible, and of course it is, don't forget that the same standard that you used for them, God will use for you. Have you ever lied? Or say, for example, you judge someone, or you measure someone by the way in which they behave, and you see someone losing their temper over something that is completely trivial in your eyes, and you think to yourself, that person shouldn't be reacting like that. That's mad. Well, yes, it probably is. But here's the question: do you ever react in the same way? Is it only the other person who has done this? Because you have judged them according to a standard, and God will judge us according to the same standard. We often find people whom we judge, and we say, oh, they weren't out of church again this week. That's about 3 or 4 weeks they've missed. Do you attend regularly and faithfully yourself? Are there weeks when perhaps you could be at worship, but you have decided not to bother to come to worship? Whether that be worship on the Lord's Day, morning and evening, or whether it be worshipping with God's people during the week when they gather for prayer and for Bible study. It's very easy, brethren, to point the finger at others. But as the old saying goes, when you point your finger at others, there are 3 fingers pointing back to you. Our Lord says, with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. So, brethren, let's be careful not to be judgmental. Or, if we are taking a biblical standard, as we should, and applying it to the lives of other people, desiring that they would live according to those biblical standards, as they should if they're Christians, then let us remember that the same biblical standard applies to us as well. And just as we have used a measure to judge them, God will use that same measure in judging or in assessing us. With the measure you use, it will be measured unto you. May the Lord help us to remember this and to take it to heart. Have a good day, folks.